You're watching India Today Global. I'm joined by Shivarur and Gaurav Sawant. We'll be discussing a very important and interesting topic. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Ukraine, a historic visit first by an Indian premier. There was a lot when it comes to the significance of the visit, but also the deliverables. But beyond the deliverables, a lot happened. It's not just the Indian community, the diaspora there, India's historical ties with Ukraine, but it's the post-bilateral conversation media briefing that the Ukrainian president held that still is a part of conversations in the diplomatic circuit, or those who follow foreign policy, or those who do not follow foreign policy but follow Prime Minister Modi's movements, India's foreign policy. A lot of conversation on that front, but why did that happen? Let's take a look at what President Zelensky had to say, and then we'll come back for context on the briefing.
Russia has on this deal with India. We understand it very, very much and very well with details. That's why, we want to try to do everything possible to stop it. But we can't push. You are an independent country and government, and it's your government. We can't do anything, illegal. That's why I said that we are asking you to think, and we are ready to work if you are okay with the idea that we will do what we can, but we have to stop, give money and strengthening Russian arm. That's our position. So I don't have answer for today, of course. I don't have.
Well, at a point in time when Prime Minister Narendra Modi in India has tried to balance its relations, its ties when it comes to Russia-Ukraine, amidst the Russia-Ukraine war, and made the effort not just to engage Russia, because that's important shift for us in India, but also to engage Ukraine, to take that message of this is not an era of war, not just to the G7 or the G20, but also to Russia, and said that in front of President Putin. But and I've been asking this to the Ukrainians whether it's enough or not. Andriy Yermak in an interview to us, he is the head of the president's office in Ukraine, said that certainly is not enough, and that was ahead of the visit. And this is after the visit. So the question over here is that we're asking. It's a provocative question. We're okay with provocative answers. Should Prime Minister Modi then have traveled to Ukraine?
Well, look, honestly speaking, I think the amount of foreign policy scrutiny that India is being subjected to post this visit is a bit of a compliment. I actually see that as a compliment because India's strategic autonomy on the world's most contentious conflict issue at the moment, puts us in the most unique sort of position diplomatically speaking. So obviously you're going to have people on the per se the Russian side have questions about India making this visit to Ukraine. You're obviously going to have Ukraine plus, which is the NATO, the all Western Europe, obviously the United States wonder about why why this visit is taking place to Moscow. Why isn't it being rebalanced? You're hearing these words like rebalancing and trying to spread your influence around, etc. at a time when there appears to be a vacuum and uncertainty over what the next steps are going to be in this war. It's already in its third year. I see it as a validation. I see it as an affirmation. I see every brickbat that India has got, diplomatically speaking, as far as Ukraine is concerned, as a bouquet of roses, frankly. And especially after Modi's visit to Ukraine, especially after the remarks that Volodymyr Zelensky made, I actually don't even know why people are surprised or reacting in the way that they are about the things that the Ukrainian president said, Geeta, because what else was he going to say? Was he going to say
somewhere, Shiv, there was maybe that's a reading I get.
I don't think so.
Through the months of the war, Gaurav, you can weigh in. That we saw in the initial stages when the war broke out and India took a position, it took a stand, and the Ukrainian president was recalled. the Ukrainian ambassador in New Delhi was recalled, and then slowly the understanding of getting to know what India's position is, knowing that New Delhi and Washington DC are aligned on various factors, and it does not help Ukraine in being as harsh with India, but the rudeness did come out at the end of the visit, Gaurav.
Basically, India's stature is rising. India will not play second fiddle to the United States of America or Western powers. And more than the West, I think Indian journalists, Indian media, and a section of Indian champagne liberals need to understand that we are not a second-rate power. We may love to attend track to diplomacy and all these events in the US and UK and in Europe, but we are a country whose stature is rising, and we go by our foreign policy. We'll do what is in our national interest best. If our national interest is served best being friends both with Russia and Ukraine, we will, of course, since we are very close friends of the United States of America, and do keep one thing in mind, there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, there are only permanent national interests. So as long as our national interest and America's national interest, they are together, we'll go forward up to a point, and beyond that, we'll look after our national interest and they'll look after theirs. There'll be a lot of virtue signaling, and I think we are not lily-livered that we get taken in by, oh my God, they've said this to India. I mean, who cares? Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. The fact is, if taking Russian oil helps Indian economy, then Prime Minister Narendra Modi is India's Prime Minister. He is neither Ukraine's president nor he is Joe Biden's undersecretary. So he will do what is in India's interest. Joe Biden can understand that, it's good for him. If it doesn't understand that, well, you can virtue signal all that you want. Prime Minister thinks, it's in India's interest to be friends with Russia, we'll be friends with Russia. If he thinks it's in India's interest to be friends with Ukraine and look for a middle part, find a solution, which has been India's consistent policy, bum, goli, barood ke beech, बातचीत नहीं हो सकती, शांति चाहिए, बातचीत करिए, negotiation can be found only on the talks table. We've said that to China, we've said that to Russia and Ukraine, point one. Point two, everyone wants us to condemn, the Russian attack on Ukraine. How many of these countries have condemned the Chinese transgressions on our borders? And if they haven't condemned then why are we saying, oh my God, you haven't, condemned it? But yet you want us, and as external affairs, hold on. External affairs minister very clearly said, at least we are not telling them to do more trade, the way the West told us to do more trade with China when they were transgressing our borders. So, let's stand up and be counted. We are a strong country. We are a rising power. We have to understand we are a rising power, unless we want to just continue to peddle the Western agenda, because we want appreciation from the West.
But the point you make on Western pressures, Shiv, that West pressures India despite and in spite of the transgressions by China, and why should India really do that? But in all this, and all the reporting and the preamble to the visit itself, did you not for once think or sense or get a sense of Western pressure? There's enough that's been written about Western pressure, American pressure. Was there, according to you, pressure from DC or pressure from the West on Modi so-called balancing ties between the two countries after the Putin hug?
So nobody should sneeze at the India-US relationship. It's a very important one. It's grown by leaps and bounds over the last couple of decades. It's one of our most important relationships. But I would be very cautious about crediting Modi's visit to Ukraine and giving that credit to Washington. For God's sake, India and Ukrainian relations far predate Zelensky, they far predate this war, they far predate anything that we're talking about here. It's, people are acting, genuine, sensible people who are part of India's commentariat are pretending like as if India and Ukraine diplomatic relationship started in 2022 after this war. India and Ukraine go back a long way. I want to remind everyone, Geeta, that India and Ukraine don't just have a diplomatic relationship, they have a defense relationship. And the three of us know that two countries do not even do defense trade unless they have a very, very strong connective tissue bond that goes beyond the cultural, beyond the strategic. And we operate Ukrainian aircraft, Ukrainian engines power our warships, There are various other Ukrainian pieces of equipment in our nuclear and our defense sphere. So this is not a joke of a relationship. So I would be very hesitant to say it's because of Washington's pressure that Modi needed to quickly rebalance and visit Ukraine after he visited Moscow, so that the mandarins in Virginia and Washington DC and wherever else could sell it to their congressmen and sell it to Congress. I'm not saying that's not part of it. Of course, that would be one of the considerations. But we have to remember that India has chosen a path which is actually the most difficult. People are pretending like this is, this is balancing. This is a diplomatic move that lacks courage because you're not taking sides. Actually, it isn't. By keeping the doors open with two aggressors who want to annihilate each other and threaten global security, India happens to be putting itself in a position where it is possibly the only country in the world that has a meaningful door open with two countries that want to end the world.
But can that really translate into being
That is
peacemaker,
separate.
mediator? We'll come to that.
No, but that is a separate issue.
But
I just want to add a
sure,
15-second thing to that. The point about what India can do is a layer being added by the world. India has never approached this saying, we are here to stop this war. India has never said, we're going to get into the middle of this in order to make sure that these two countries do not destroy each other. That's being said by others, and that's only by virtue of India's unique position.
But then again,
India has never arrogated for itself that
Shiv,
position.
if it was just focused on national interests, so on and so forth, then going to Moscow and making those statements with Putin that this is not an era of war, need to stop war, and very strong ones at that, and then coming back over here and saying the same things about coming to the negotiating table, there is some sort of a sense that India, while whether if it can play or cannot play, is putting itself there and saying that we can reach both the countries, we can reach out to both the leaders, and therefore this is our position on the Russia-Ukraine.
But that's one of the reasons why you have the most brainless form of commentary, and Gaurav will join me on this, from ex-ambassadors, former diplomats, commentators who are considered respectable in the diplomatic commentariat space. Even a couple of former army veterans, senior army veterans weighing in and saying, oh my God, why did India have to go to Ukraine? Oh my God, you went there and got humiliated. Oh my God, why did India put itself in a position where Zelensky could talk like this? Oh my God, India has been humiliated. What utter rubbish. I mean, these were people who were running the country, which frankly for me is a great source of nervousness. I mean, what the hell were these people doing in the MEA at a time if they were so lily-livered about India taking a powerful position on a very, very abrasive international issue? So all I will say is, this kind of self-doubt as far as a powerful position being taken on a difficult issue is beyond depressing.
Okay, I'll come back to the commentary, but before that, and Gaurav, we will discuss the commentary because it's interesting to see how so many people have weighed in on the visit itself. But like Shiv was saying, that India-Ukraine ties predate any leader and any change of government or wars or not, right? But is Zelensky another layer to the kind of relations that Ukraine and India have had in the past? Is it different dealing with a Zelensky? We have seen India's ties with other leaders of the past, but does Zelensky redefine how India should really look at Ukraine, Ukraine's foreign policy, Ukraine's policies, so to say?
So I covered Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Moscow. I was in Moscow reporting from the Kremlin, and I was at the presidential palace. I was reporting on Prime Minister's visit to Ukraine. And the first question I asked, President Zelensky, he also spoke of positives. However, some within our country only choose to focus on the negatives. Be that as it may. He also said it's a great visit. It's a very important visit. India is a very powerful country. India can play a very big role. We are open to all sorts of business. We want to engage even further with India. He said all of that. But we choose to focus only on his criticism of the oil, which is, in a way, it also reflects the hypocrisy of the West. because India is not drinking on all that oil.
Yeah.
All the crude that comes from Russia, India refines it and sells it to the same countries who are pointing fingers at India for buying that oil.
And who are actually saying do
You
not
know,
buy Russian oil.
I mean, this hypocrisy
Yes.
and the failure of India's lily-livered Western, following commentariat, the champagne liberals in India, because they're so comfortable drinking that Western champagne, that they will close their eyes to the truth and ground realities.
Maybe
No,
not
hold
all
on,
of them.
hold on.
Maybe some of
Hear
them
me.
actually think that this is not a good idea. It has nothing to do with the Western view or Western
Well,
view.
it is only the Western view, because if you look at the Indian view, well, it's a win-win for all three countries. It's a win
Indian
for
view
India.
can also be diverse.
It's a win for India, it's a win for Russia, it's a win for Ukraine. The fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Russia, the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Ukraine. Look, will Russia trust Joe Biden? Will Russia trust America? Clearly not. Will Russia trust Europe? Clearly not. Who's the only world leader that Russia will trust? Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Why is it so? It's a
not
win.
the only, there's Xi Jinping too. But
But
yeah.
really trust him? I mean, seriously, why are we so keen on doubting ourselves?
Not
and
doubting.
introducing? No,
I'm
hold
just
on.
saying you
Hear
can
me out.
introduce other leaders.
But Zelensky
too.
wouldn't trust Xi Jinping.
No.
But
That's-
who would?
yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
why
Which
Modi
is why
is the only unique
exactly.
leader in this.
How is it a win-win for Ukraine? Russia's best friend is in Kiev. It's a big win for Zelensky that he's managed to get the prime minister of the world's most powerful democracy to Kiev. Russia's best friend is in Kiev. It's a win for Zelensky.
But do you think there was reluctance in visiting Kiev? That
From
they had
whose
to,
point? From whose point?
That Ukraine had to convince India a lot?
Well, again, like I said, it's a win-win for all. It's a win for India because it shows our growing stature internationally. The world press focused on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Ab unki negativity, it's the negativity that they have to show. Oh, it's under American pressure. Really?
No,
I mean,
I'm asking.
No,
That's,
but
it's
also because it's
something
also
that's
because the
important.
West also does not want India to emerge as a world power with an independent thinking. They want us to toe the American line, hook, line, and sinker. They wanted us to toe the American line on China. But did Prime Minister Narendra Modi or did India toe the American line on China? We did not. We are following an independent foreign policy on China. We are engaging with China independently. Of course, we'll take West help where West help is required. But when it comes to China, we will deal with China on our terms.
Okay, but coming back to Zelensky.
Which Zelensky is not. Zelensky is dealing with Russia on America's terms. And not on his
He
independent
doesn't have a
terms.
choice.
No,
He doesn't have
Yeah,
a choice.
yeah.
So hear me out. The point is, India's stature is rising. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit is a win-win for
We get
Russia.
that.
For Russia, hold on. The fact that you've interrupted me third time, Geeta, just very clearly goes on to show that this narrative hurts. That
Absolutely not. I'm not setting a narrative. What is wrong with you?
Then let me.
I'm not setting a
because you're
narrative.
not letting me complete.
No, because
this is the
we've
third
heard
time you
this.
interrupted me.
This is-
This is
we've
the
heard
third
this.
time. No,
But Gaurav,
you
we've
don't
heard
interrupt.
this.
You didn't interrupt Shiv. This is the third time you're
You
interrupting me.
interrupt me when I'm speaking. Let him finish.
Yes, I do. I
the
do.
third time, I've got statistics
Huh.
to show you that Europe.
But that's okay.
Yeah, so that's what I was coming to, which is the point. Europe, there's a 115% surge in the oil that Europe has acquired from India. Where does that oil come from? It comes from Russia, refined in India and then exported to Europe. So from 111,000 barrels in 2022 to 231,800 barrels in 2023. We refine and sell to who? To 20 of 27 EU countries. So that is where Western hypocrisy stands exposed.
Well, that's exactly what we've also been reporting in India Today Global, Gaurav. It's not something that we've not reported before.
Good.
Of diversion of oil resources from Russia that come to India and some other countries and are now being taken
That's the
in by.
criticism. Why is India
by
buying
Europe.
so much oil from Russia?
That we've already addressed.
it
But
is
I'm
being
going
bought
back
because
to-
it's also being exported
I
to
know,
other
I know.
countries.
But and they're basically India is helping and facilitating those who are actually feeling the paucity of oil right now, and which is Europe, the ones who don't want to openly say that they are taking Russian or buying Russian oil. We get that.
So this
But
just
coming
exposes
back-
the hypocrisy.
Absolutely. We have been talking about Western hypocrisy through and through the Russia-Ukraine war. But I'll come back to you on how then is India going to deal with the United States of America. But before that, I'd like to go back to Zelensky. Is Zelensky now a new feature, so to say, in the India-Ukraine ties, which we did not have to deal with before? Before this, one, there was no war. But secondly, there was no Zelensky. They were leaders. They were leaders who were politicians from political parties, knew Russia-Ukraine dynamics, knew India-Ukraine dynamics, and did not go overboard with things that maybe led to a situation. And we're not saying that Zelensky alone pushed Russia to invade, but it has been different with Zelensky. So is it different for India to deal with the Zelensky? To know that, okay, you're taking this chance, you're taking this risk going into Ukraine, you want deliverables, you want good ties, because Ukraine is important and you want to seem to be continuing with those historical ties.
Look, as far as foreign
understanding
policy,
Zelensky and knowing exactly what he was going to do after.
world leaders play a role, but relationship between countries is far deeper than just individual world leaders. The fact is, Ukraine was at times hostile to India, voted in favor of Pakistan at the United Nations. The fact that Ukraine has been was hostile and selling T-80 UD tanks to Pakistan when India was buying the T-72s from Russia and then the T-90s.
That's also the Russia-Ukraine dynamics and the India-Pakistan.
Absolutely. Yes. At the same time, India has always taken stuff that we require. For example, Mi-17 helicopters, they're the warhorse of Indian Air Force helicopter fleet. The engines come from Ukraine. The AN-32, the Antonov facility, the biggest transport aircraft manufacturing facility in Ukraine, which manufactures the Antonovs or AN-32, which is the warhorse of the Indian Air Force, backbone of Indian Air Force transport fleet as far as Siachen Glacier was concerned. Manufactured for India, for Indian specifications, the AN-32. The ship engines manufactured by Ukraine. So India buys a lot of military hardware from Ukraine and has been for decades. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe, but India, I mean, you don't look at India just as a leader of 1.4 billion people. India has emerged as the leader of global south. India speaks for developing countries, and that grain that comes from Ukraine, the sunflower oil that comes from Ukraine, India has played a very critical role talking to Ukraine, talking to Russia, ensuring that that food grain comes out of that Odessa port, comes out from the south and then goes to developing countries, because the price of food grain impacted in Africa, in developing countries, was adversely impacted. Money that should have gone the Black Sea. So that is where, look, India's stature has constantly been rising.
The Black Sea deal.
That is where you notice that India's stature will continue to rise. And clearly, Ukraine cribbing about India buying Russian oil, it doesn't cut ice. Now, if we were not to buy oil from Russia, where will we buy it from? Will we buy it from Iran? Iran is facing sanctions. Will we buy it from Venezuela? Venezuela is facing sanctions. So, are we only going to buy from the Middle East? Middle East prices are already high.
I'd like to correct you a little.
No, hold on.
We were never traditional oil importers from Russia.
That's exactly why I gave you the point of Iran and Venezuela, which are facing sanctions. We cannot buy from there.
But they're not US sanctions. They are just American sanctions.
And that would adversely impact Indian companies. If we can do away with American
sanctions for Russia, why did we not do away with American sanctions for Iran?
Because it is adversely impacting and we are getting it cheaper. We are getting it cheaper from Russia. We'll buy it cheaper from Russia.
No, but Iran would have also given us not just cheaper, way higher quality oil.
So why should India?
This is where maybe I'd like to differ a little, but does not mean that we should not look at it strategically and what helps our interests. And in our interests, it was really important right now to place ourselves in a way where we are playing from a place of strength and advantage rather than disadvantage.
Then why should we put ourselves at a disadvantage just to sound wow to the West?
I'm just saying, for the Iran bit, one has to understand that Iran is under American sanctions, not UN sanctions. It would be best that we also engage Iran rather than look at what America does or does not do with Iran.
But we are engaged with Iran. We are engaged very extensively
very minimally, and only now, after the Russia-Ukraine war, have we now opened up to saying that we are not going to look at Western sanctions alone. We are only going to look at UN sanctions. If you have it in you not to get a veto from China and Russia and get a sanction, then get that sanction. So that's the Iran message.
The one missing piece in all of this, of course, is Zelensky's.
Please, I want the Zelensky answer.
What's probably going to keep Zelensky up at night right now, and which probably explains many of his tantrums, is the total uncertainty over what's happening with the US election. With Biden now practically incapacitated, with a very, very little predictability as to what the next administration's policy is going to be vis-a-vis Ukraine, especially given the almost 100% diversion of resources and sort of political capital towards what's happening between Israel and Gaza. Zelensky I'm just wondering what kind of mind space Zelensky is going to be. So, when people say, oh my God, Zelensky's hard talk, and oh my God, Zelensky really gave it to the Indian press once Modi had left from there. And there was one shameless former ambassador who worked in the MEA, sits on Twitter and gives gyan on a daily basis. I don't want to take his name.
We're not naming and shaming anyone.
We're not naming and shaming anyone. I don't want all of us to get sued also, but he knows who he is very well. A loudmouth who says, why did India put itself in this position? Which is actually a bit of a wake-up call for me, because how could these people have been manning the External Affairs Ministry at one point of time if they think a diplomatic engagement isn't the right thing to do? And two, most importantly, and I'll end with this point, is that people are saying, what did we gain from this visit? Why did we put ourselves in this position? Modi should not have gone there and got insulted. Oh my God, even while Modi was in the air, Zelensky was saying all this stuff to the press. Have all mandarins, have all diplomats, have all these commentators, former army commanders and all manner of, wild animals on Twitter who are part of the commentariat. Have they forgotten that sometimes the medium is the message? Have they forgotten that sometimes the open door is the success of a visit? Have they forgotten that the very fact that a visit is happening is in itself its message, is in itself a message to the entire world that India actually is in this unique position to have channels of communication, healthy channels of communication. You can laugh all you want about Modi hugging leaders. People can jeer about it and say, "Arey, he doesn't hug anyone here. He's only hugging people there." He's the only leader who has hugged Zelensky and Modi. And the same Putin. Year, a few days apart.
Also somebody, I don't know who
These
wrote it, but
somebody... These things matter. I am sorry. People can be as cynical as they want about whether India has put itself in a difficult position, but I think that's what rising powers do. They put themselves voluntarily in difficult situations while keeping their national interest high.
So somebody actually, Shiv had also written that Zelensky has pulled a Musharraf on India. And such comments continue, Gaurav.
And how did Musharraf end up in life? So, look, I covered Musharraf's Agra visit. Okay.
This is a telling commentary. He said, how did Musharraf end up in life?
Exactly.
So I don't know whether we should ask the same question about where Zelensky will land.
No, ultimately look at Indian diplomacy and
however it comes to.
Indian diplomacy is one, very aggressive, very keeping national interest first. India's national interest is supreme, because that is why we've put these people where they are, right? Dr. Jaishankar is External Affairs Minister, Narendra Modi is Prime Minister, Ajit Doval is National Security Advisor, because they're meant to put Indian interest first. I wouldn't want a Prime Minister who will put, European interest first or the American interest first. I'd rather have a Prime Minister who will put my interest first. And this is where this government, and how do we know things are different? Pakistan keeps hitting India, one terror attack after the other, लेकिन जी वो बातचीत करने के लिए हाथ फैला दिया. Why? Because American interests have to be protected in Afghanistan. So we would compromise.
Prime Minister Modi also made the effort.
He made the effort, but he also bashed them up. I am so sorry. Your defense of
I'm not
you're just rising to the defense because
no, I'm not.
Each time you're rising to the defense because I am making a point.
I have to make factual points.
None of my points are non-factual.
So then I can
none of my points are.
You're saying that in लोगों ने किया. I'm just saying that
they have been elected.
Modi also tried to make the effort.
Okay, so let's
and then maybe
when you count
Geeta
yeah. Mohan, so you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? So Prime Minister Narendra Modi made the effort when he went to Lahore in 2016. Pakistan did a Pulwama in 2019, and a Balakot happened in 2019. After Balakot, show me one effort that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made to go to Pakistan or be friends with Pakistan unless they stop terror. Show me one effort Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made after 370. When Pakistan said no talks and they removed their ambassador, their high commissioner. What effort have we made after that?
No, not really.
So I am just going. So no, hold on.
I'm not saying
no effort has been made. No effort has been made after 370. After
certainly
Pakistan.
Not after 370.
So let's talk logical.
But
let's please talk logical. No,
you cannot decide for me. I can add to what you're saying.
But please add on facts.
This is
please
a fact.
argue on facts.
But this is a fact.
Facts,
this is a fact that Prime Minister Modi also made an effort. I can't
in 2016,
say whenever
after Pakistan did a
they
Pulwama,
stopped.
after that was
Gaurav,
2016, after
maybe
Pakistan
the
did a Pulwama.
realization of not engaging Pakistan happened and he stopped. But he did make an effort, is all I said. And I'm not factually incorrect.
Well, you're factually incorrect on the
Not
years.
I did not
2016.
say, did I say a year?
2016
I
is
did
when
not
that effort was
I
made,
did
and
not,
2019
I did not spell
was
out a
when
year,
Pulwama happened, and
Gaurav.
2019
I'm just saying that there's
was when
an
Balakot
effort that was
happened.
made. They also met in UFA before. And
Again,
the Kashmir
2016,
statement, that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying 2019.
I did not make, I'm not saying,
Okay.
I did not spell out a year. I'm just saying that an effort was made even by this administration, maybe realized sooner than later, that talks and terror don't go hand in hand. And since then, they've not spoken. But I'm just saying that this government had also made an effort. An effort can be made. Some people don't learn. Some maybe governments don't learn, and some learn sooner than later. I do agree that talks and terror should not go hand in hand, but I will not say completely that it was only one side that that went on and on with Pakistan, and the other side did not make an effort at all. They did, inviting Nawaz Sharif for the oath-taking ceremony, so on and so forth. I'm not giving a timeline over here. I'm just
I
saying.
am giving a timeline.
You are, but I
2014,
was
2016,
I was not.
2019, and now we're in 2024.
Yeah, but I was not. I was not giving a timeline over here. Having said that, going back to the conversation before I end this, and this gets nastier because, with Gaurav.
No, it doesn't get nastier with Gaurav. It's just that you're not letting me complete my point.
No, then complete your point.
Yeah.
What point did I not allow
This
you to
point
complete?
we're just trying to complete.
Yeah, so complete.
So
your
they've
point.
been elected to keep India's interest first, and they're keeping India's interest first. If India's interest is met by meeting both President Putin on the 8th of July in Moscow, and then on 23rd of July Zelensky in Kiev, that's exactly what Prime Minister Narendra Modi did. Now let's wait and see what the outcome is. An effort has been made by a rising superpower.
No,
The
you're
West
saying
may
that
not like
you're
it.
saying that the dates were decided well in advance.
I didn't say that. I just said that an effort is being made by India to play a bigger role on the international stage. Let's
As
see
what?
if a solution comes out.
As what?
There were some ideas that were discussed in Moscow between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Russian President Putin. Except the two heads of state and government and the interpreters, no third person was available and was there in that room. So the only details of that conversation are known to President Putin, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and their interpreters. On the road ahead between Russia and Ukraine, there were some ideas discussed. Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes back with those ideas to India. When he travels to Ukraine, then he has a discussion with the Ukrainian president. Now let us wait to see what that outcome is.
This is what you're telling me. I don't know what was discussed there, whether there was a roadmap or not. We've not been told that. So
I was there in Moscow.
But
I was there in Moscow.
So I
Prime
will
Minister
only go
said
with
this.
the fact
The fact is Prime
that
Minister
the Indian
said
Prime
this.
Minister is making an effort over here also, and not just making an effort like we said when we first started, that this is is a historic visit by the Indian Prime Minister. But of course,
And which is what Zelensky said in his response to me. That I don't know if you played out that.
No, we have not.
Okay,
We've
yeah.
not.
If
But
you
yes,
do,
the first
if you-
question was yours, and we've played out the entire
So
interaction.
in which he said it's a
on India
historic
Today Global.
visit. India is a great power. India is a big power, and Indian Prime Minister coming here is a big statement.
See, Gaurav, that's not the problem. Is this that he can say all this, but then if he adds a but and says all this and more, and his office continues to say that you have to call Russia an aggressor, India is not going to do that. And
So
therefore,
then
we come
what
back
is
to the
more
entire
important-
conversation.
What
Chip,
is more important
that,
to us? What is India first, or what the Indian Prime Minister or the External Affairs Minister
exactly
says,
what I'm
or
saying.
what Zelensky said?
Exactly what I'm saying. That if it is India first, did this really help India or not?
Yes.
Shiv, coming to the US elections now, in America itself, positioning yourself the way you've positioned. Now, just hypothetically speaking, we have a lame duck president for Biden, right? And should Trump come to power, Ukraine does not matter. It will stop mattering because he's going to pull out. Should Kamala come to power, she will question India's position because of the stand she's taken. She is no Biden. Then in such a scenario, a Ukraine visit, from the US perspective, does it even matter or not? Doesn't matter.
Frankly, the dynamic as far as Ukraine is concerned is going to become a little less important for India post what happens between November and January, in my view, because I think the United States is going to be navigating a very difficult path itself, domestically speaking, as far as Ukraine is concerned, and the level of you know, Department of State energy that they can actually invest in seeing what these relations with India and other countries can actually do vis-a-vis Ukraine are going to be a little bit less, because like you said, it's complicated. If Trump comes in, there's going to be a completely separate dynamic.
Really? Yes.
With Kamala Harris if Kamala Harris comes in as president, it's going to be completely separate. The point is, the United States has already in some ways hung Ukraine out to dry, which is why I find this entire idea of Washington pressure on India to visit Ukraine a little rich, because when Prime Minister Modi was at the G7 in Italy, Zelensky was in Washington for the NATO Chief Summit, and he issued a comment from there, if you remember, saying that this is a devastating. No, but when Modi was in Russia, he said this is a devastating blow, and this kind of thing does not help the war effort at all, and it's a huge blow to Ukraine. You remember Zelensky's tweet when he said that. So all I'm saying is I don't fully understand where the surprise comes from over the things that happened in Ukraine while Modi was there and after he left. The way Zelensky behaved was like clockwork, and the way he will behave after the election will
Which
be
is
like
why,
clockwork.
for me, Zelensky becomes very important.
Zelensky is the world's most predictable politician. Let me say that. Let me give you your headline. He is the world's most predictable politician. We can sit here and list out exactly what he is going to say on a daily basis between now and the US election, and we will not be wrong.
Okay.
He doesn't have a choice. He's got no elbow room. He's got no maneuvering space, and I don't blame him completely either for it.
That's actually quite true. He has no elbow room, Gaurav. You've been interacting with the Ukrainians. You were there. You interacted with the president as well as got a moment with him separately too. Does he give a sense of a person who will come out victorious or somebody who is on the back foot? Because everybody keeps asking, is Russia on the back foot with this entire attack that we're seeing by the Ukrainians, the kamikaze drones that we've reported today? Is he on the back foot, or is Russia on the back foot?
Neither. Ukraine is not on the back foot. President Zelensky is not on the back foot. He is fighting with his back to the wall. There's no denying the fact, and the fact that he's held on, for 2.5 years, it just shows how strong the Ukrainians are. I mean, hats off to Ukraine, the manner in which it's fought a militarily far superior country. But the fact also remains that they've got NATO to help them. They've got it's the combined might of NATO plus Ukraine taking on Russia. That's the ground reality. The longer range missiles and the aircraft that he's now getting. He's getting the F-16s, and they will impact the war in some bits, but and they've depleted Russia's warfighting capability to a very large extent. I think President Zelensky is pretty strong in the manner in which he's been going. He continues to, the more weapons and systems he gets, the longer the Ukrainian people can carry on. But in case Russia does target their infrastructure in a bigger way, then there is trouble for Ukraine, there's trouble for Russia, there's trouble for the region. There are only two gainers: the weapons industry in Europe and the weapons industry in the United States of America, and China. The only one who gains from this is China, because China gets more money, China gets Russian technology, Russia will be depleted, Ukraine will be depleted, America to an extent is being exposed as hollow, Europe is suffering, China will gain, and India's tried to sensitize the world. Again, India is seeing this through and through from a detached point of view.
And a very strategic perspective.
And that is where, so when India has that strategic perspective, India cannot be wrong in reaching out to Ukraine after reaching out to Russia. It's a big win for Russia, Ukraine, and India.
Big win for Russia, Sheikh. Big win for
Russia,
Ukraine, and India, he says. Is it a big win for India?
I agree. It's definitely a big win for India, because and even more so because people are piling questions onto India. The fact that all of this criticism and all of these questions come actually validates and affirms the kind of importance this visit actually had. So for me, it's definitely a win for India.
Okay, big win for India by both the men over here. But to me, I'd say that it was a historic moment, but a historic moment that at the end of the visit did leave a bad, and if I wouldn't want to use too strong a word calling it bad taste in one's mouth, but did sour one's experience. Nobody wants to have a visit as important as this with deliverables,
You're
mind
wrong,
you.
but you're entitled to it.
Yeah, you can also say what you want to.
No, fine. Look,
But I'm saying that that the Ukrainians, if they wanted what they wanted from India, and if they want what they want from India, they should have behaved. And
so you're saying Ukraine behaved bad? Is that what you're saying?
absolutely they
So
behaved
if
badly.
Ukraine behaved
Of
bad,
course Zelensky
then-
behaved badly.
So that just shows that we are bigger people,
No,
right?
but
Prime Minister Narendra
Gaurav,
Modi had a big heart.
Gaurav,
he
that
took a
aside,
big gamble. He went.
when we
It's
are,
big for
When
India.
we are planning a visit, and it happens every time, everything to the T is planned and ensured that the Prime Minister's visit is a success, which means that it has to happen from both sides in terms of statements, in terms of optics, in terms of everything. So Zelensky did do wrong by India by doing what he did. He might have his position. Did he have to do it with the Indian press corps that was meeting him?
What
Is the
else
big
was he
question.
going to
Yes,
do?
why not?
Shreya, whatever. You have invited a guest.
Would
You have invited a guest. You have signed deals.
MOUs.
MOUs.
Not a new
want
relationship.
not a new
Yeah.
relationship, Shiv. Really not a new
Yeah.
relationship. But Zelensky is a new piece in that relationship, and I keep reiterating that, and I don't think I can emphasize enough how Zelensky has changed things for India, Ukraine in itself.
And
So
Zelensky
this whole
and Ukraine would
idea,
need us.
it
They
does.
need our
If this was
manpower.
another,
No.
if this was, it could not have been
Let-
Yanukovych, because then
let
there
me just
wouldn't have been a war.
have the last
But
15
yes,
seconds,
please.
and I'll wrap this up. It is this: Zelensky could not have ended this visit by being vanilla about India, saying the diplomatic niceties and letting things be, because Zelensky is a man of the West. His entire power, resource, the bravery with which Ukrainians are fighting back, which is almost entirely now fueled by the West, means that he draws his strength from the West. In
And
which
you think
case,
the West would have wanted this?
in which case, the West would obviously have wanted it. The West would obviously have wanted it. Which
Against
is
India.
why I'm saying for the fifth time, this is a man who basically has a wind-up key on his back.
No,
He's
but
got
for India, what
he's
does the
got
West hold against India?
So what?
West
Against
wants us
India.
to rise, but West does not want us to rise to be
When has
independent
the
and
West not
strong.
wanted to keep India in check?
Yes.
When has the West not wanted to keep India in check? As far as Ukraine is concerned, the United States and India are not friends. Let's make our peace with that.
Okay.
They want us to be subservient to them.
but
We
in
will
that-
not
in
be
th- but
subservient
then
to them.
in that context, look at the visit then. You know, if you knew that the Ukrainian president is a West puppet, then look at the visit in that context, and which is why I'm saying that Zelensky changes things for India in the India-Ukraine
I just
dynamic.
want
Can
all. You included Geeta, and everyone who says sour taste, bad taste in the mouth, etc. I just
With
want.
Zelensky,
I
yes,
just,
he
I
behaved
just want
rudely.
all of you to turn this on its head for a moment and look at it another way. And this is the last thing I'll say, which is this.
Fifth time that
which
he's
is
saying
this. Do Zelensky's words say something about India, or do they say something about Zelensky?
My point
They
exactly.
say nothing about India.
So let's
it
edit
actually
it. So can we
affirms
all
India's
agree?
stature.
Can we agree on one thing, that Zelensky is a piece that changes the India-Ukraine
No, he
dynamics
does not.
a bit?
Can I just
It does.
can I no can,
Even
can
if
I
it's
hold
the
on.
historicity,
Can I
if you're going to connect and engage, you have to engage Zelensky.
No, you have to engage the country. You don't just engage the president. Zelensky may like us, Zelensky may not like us. At the same time, he would want to sell Me-17 helicopter engines to us. He
But
will
you're
want to sell
engaging
AN-32.
Zelensky like there's engaging Modi.
So he
Prime
has
Minister
to
Modi,
sell.
right?
He has to sell his AN-32 aircraft engines to us. He has to sell ship engines to us. He needs to sell grain. We are like emerging as the world's third largest economy. You
Do
will
we
love-
import grain?
We are the leaders of global south. We ensure that grain prices reach the global south at an affordable rate. Pesticide, fertilizer, grain, sunflower oil, fuel from the region, from Russia, from Ukraine. All of this is required for global south. India doesn't speak just for India. India speaks for the developing
But I'm
world.
just saying
that is where our
I'll-
stature,
maybe I'll leave one word
is
yeah.
rising. Our
No,
stature as a country
Nobody,
is rising.
nobody,
We
even
don't
in
want
the
vanilla
beginning,
visits.
nobody from the beginning of the show up until now has said that India's stature has not risen. It has already risen. We are a
And
very
allow me
important
to conclude
power,
with just one
not
line,
just in
one
the
line.
global south that you're talking
One
about,
line.
but in the global economy itself, in the world itself.
Yes.
Having said that, I would go back to saying this about Zelensky, that Zelensky is a piece that we have to always factor in while engaging Ukraine till the time he is president, because he is president of the country.
And if he keeps
And-
Ukraine's national interest first, then he will also know engaging with India is in his interest. Point one. Point two, on the critical words that may come, do remember what...
I think what is in Ukraine's national interest is to, like, he has very little elbow room to engage the West.
Okay,
because
that
there is
one
no
line
one
that I
else.
wanted
Yeah.
that you're okay. What Lakshmanji told Parshuram in that Samvad when Sri Ram broke the Dhanush, hiya kumhad batya ko nahi je tarjani dekhi mar jahi. We are not lily livered, we are strong people.
No,
we
you have to
can take some
translate that for our
criticism.
viewers.
Okay, so when Sri Ram broke the Dhanush, okay, Parshuramji came and he was very angry and he was breathing fire and he looked at everyone and everyone was, shivering. And Ramchandraji being Ramchandraji, Maryada Purushottam, he kept quiet. But Lakshmanji being Lakshmanji, he walked up to Parshuramji and just stared him in the eye and said, हिया कुम्हड़ बतिया, कुम्हड़ बतिया इज लौकी जब बड़ी होती है ना तो उसकी बेल में जो छोटा सा बतिया उसको द स्मॉल प्लांट उसको इवन इफ यू पॉइंट ए फिंगर इट श्रिवल्स एंड ही सेड हिया कुम्हड़ बतिया को नहीं जे तर्जनी देखी डर जाएगी. So, we are not those lily livered, we are not scared. You can say anything to us. We are a strong country, our stature continues to rise.
That again, it's about us. I'm just again going back to the fact that there is an impulsive, like you said, Lakshmanji, an impulsive character also in the story, and you have to factor that in every time you're making a strategic foreign policy decision. On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the Digital Global.